Welcome back to Murder Therapy with Doll Talk and Cousin Ashley. We were
Hello.
just laughing about Napoleon Dynamite.
Her son's making tater tots and he came out and he was like, Ashley, do you want some tots? I said, I love tots. She said, okay, go away, Napoleon.
I know, it's because, okay, so Colin is getting older. I talk about this all the time. And he's being more independent and he's learning how to use the oven, but he's petrified to reach in there and get things out. So he's like, if I put it in, will you get it out? And I was like, yeah. So part of the agreement, he's like, when are you going to start recording? I'm like, here in a little bit. And he's like, will you get my tots out?
It builds character getting burnt by a stove or an
Yes.
oven.
Yes.
He's always been a self-sufficient. Like, I never even forced him. He's just that type of personality. And, like, he was doing toaster waffles on his own at, like, 3 or 4. Like, climbing shelves. He's a wild one. Colin takes everything with caution.
He does. He does. He really, like, analyzes these things before he does it,
They're
which, I
polar
mean, is good.
opposite.
It's good. They are polar opposite, but yeah. Yeah, so
Jada
we
makes
were,
weird concoctions on the stove and stuff. Like, I was just telling somebody he made me literally Velveeta's and cheese. I'm good. I love good mac and cheese, but like if you're doing the basics, just don't do anything to it. It's good. And he comes in and there's like salt and pepper and I don't know what else he put in it, but then I pull out a dry bay leaf and I'm like, Jaden, you can't.
I hate macaroni and cheese anyway, so none of that
Oh,
sounded
I know.
appeasing to me. Like, I hate it
She always
more
has, you
than
guys.
anything. I have. I think I'm probably the only woman in the South that hates macaroni and cheese. I
The
have to be.
irony is that her mom makes the best Southern mac and cheese. Oh God.
I wouldn't know. I won't eat it. Like, I'm not kidding. I don't like to hear it being stirred in the pot. It makes that weird mushy, like, I can't smell it. Like, it legit makes me sick. And people think I'm being dramatic, but it does. I can't. Like, I'm like, ugh. Like, it's,
We're
oh, I'm
having
going to
it.
get sick.
We're having it for Thanksgiving. Mom's making it. So and
Well,
banana
that's
pudding.
great. Good for
Her
you.
mom makes the best banana
Good
pudding.
for, well, yes, yes. That was actually, I think, my great grandmother's recipe on my Nana's side.
It's so good.
I think it's hands down. We have this. You have the recipe.
I
It's like
do.
a secret. It's a
It is a
family
secret.
secret thing. Yeah, like,
I made it
but
one time
it's
for
the
Ryan's family,
best.
and his grandpa hunted down. He was like, "Who made this?" And he was like, "That's the best banana pudding." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then like every time you take it to somewhere, like you get volunteered. You're bringing it. It's
I could be telling this story wrong, and I'm sure Mom will tell me. So forgive me in advance, Mom, if I'm telling the story wrong. But when Nana and Papa, our Papa, had first got married, and they would do family get-togethers. And our Papa's side of the family is huge. He
it's so
had a
big.
buku of siblings. It's massive. But they would do cookouts and stuff, and people would bring things. But he would always, like, for the first like couple years that they were married, he would like critique Nana's food and be like, "This isn't how Mom makes," all this. Well, apparently he couldn't make it. Like, he was working, so he wasn't going to be at like this family get together that they were having, but Nana went, and she took a dish, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, she took banana pudding. And Papa
No,
came home and he was like, the only thing worth eating there at that whole cookout was the banana pudding.
it's fantastic. You guys don't know what you're missing,
Yes,
and it's a
yes,
secret.
yes,
Sorry, but
yes.
oh, and speaking of
It is.
food, we've got to ask because it was a comment on one of the videos. How did the chili
Oh.
cook-off go?
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot to
Yeah,
tell people about that. I'm sorry. How dare me leave you hanging.
I know.
So, me and my mom, neither one of us won. Yeah, so I know. I probably had, we will call my table the interactive table.
Oh, okay.
Um, because I took my pendulum board, I took spirit boxes, I took the rim pot, I took Ira, the girls, and Kelly, with me. Yeah, and of course my mom was over on the other side.
Oh God.
just looking. And she did come over, and my chili was good. I will say that. My mom's was good too. My mom's a good cook, period. Okay,
Yeah.
like she is like the queen cook of the South, okay? But you know who won? Are you ready? Y'all ready for this? Dana, my little office buddy.
Oh, well, good for her.
Yeah, I'm glad she did. So social work won, but the People's Choice Award, yeah, this was a big thing, y'all.
Oh my
Went
word.
to Kirk. I did. It went to Kirk. Kirk,
Kirk.
security Kirk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That he
Yeah.
worked at the
And
prison.
Kirk was right beside me. And I think there was a few times Kurt may have judged me because he kept looking at my table and he's like, I don't understand. And I was like, I'm not even going to explain. Just know you're safe.
It's okay.
But Kurt, like, listen, he's from Texas. We all knew he was going to win. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, we can't compete with that. And he did tell us that he toned down his chili for us, like, because normally it's super spicy.
Oof.
And us Virginian folk, we can't handle that shit.
I can't
Okay,
handle it.
like, yeah, I can't handle it. So you know what he uses in his chili? Ground ribeye.
Ooh.
Yes, it was phenomenal.
Mm.
It was great. But I, hands down, if decorating your table would have been part of the competition, I would have won that shit. Mm-mm.
Well, where was your
Yeah,
award?
I know. I feel like I need one. So listen, Matt Moore, I'm putting him on blast. He is in training. He is the one that volunteered me for that. So I need my award for my table.
Called out. He is called out.
Yes, I done called them out. I won't lie. I was a little concerned when our director came in, okay? Because I don't know how she feels about the paranormal. She is a very open-minded lady. But when she came to my table, she did look and she said, "This is cute." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." And then she kind of went on her merry way. And
That's cute. Your
yes,
little
yes.
toys.
So yeah, but everybody really enjoyed it, and
Good.
it was kind of comical because some people were coming in. Laura, who works directly with our chief nurse executive. Sorry.
Nerf.
Um, yeah, she watches my TikTok a lot. Her husband likes to listen to me, apparently. So she came by and she's like, "Oh my God, can I get your picture?" And he sent her, he sent her a text. He's like, "Get her autograph because it
Oh.
might be." Yeah, and I was like, I'm honored. But I'm like, I'm just some, a person too.
Just a
But
normal
yeah, so
person.
it turned out good. Yeah, it
Awesome.
turned out good. My mom glared. My mom made the cutest. Oh my God, what is the Adams family dad's? She was Gomez. That's who she was. She had
Oh.
the little mustache
Oh.
and yeah,
We
yeah. I'm
okay.
sorry I left you guys hanging.
Sometimes we
Yes.
video chat her when we're done recording. And she was talking about her Halloween costume and she said that her what did she say?
Oh my
She
God,
said
yeah.
her hand or
So, okay, my mom is the supervisor. Well, she's one of the supervisors of the housekeeping department. I love housekeeping. They have basically took me in ever since I've worked there. I'm like an honorary housekeeper. They invite me to all their shindigs, all the things, right? But they always do things as a group. Housekeeping's like a cult, which is really funny because we're talking about a cult tonight. But anywho, they're a little cult, right? And they do group things. So they decided they would be the Addams family.
that's cute.
So it's been a couple weeks ago. Me and Ashley FaceTime my mom. And my mom answers and she's like, "I don't know where my hand
Oh,
is. My hand's not going to be here in time." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, my hand for my costume." And what's the hand's name? It's
it's
it. Yeah.
thing.
It
No.
won't be here. Thing. Oh,
Cousin
I'm sorry.
it, yeah.
Thing. Forgive me. Oh my God. How could
God.
I? Oh yeah. I can't believe I fucked
Well,
up it.
Jody
But
caught on
yeah.
to what she was saying and I'm through a computer.
Yes.
And I was like, she ordered a ham on Amazon? Like the
No, a
ham you
hand.
eat?
But the hand did make it in time.
Oh, good. So she had thing.
Yes, the hand. Yes, she did have thing, but bless her little heart, half the Adams family tested positive for COVID, so they had to go home. So she didn't.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Oh
Yeah, but
no.
it turned out really good. And I'm really glad that people were so invested in this and backing up me, and they were all supportive of Doll Talk. No offense, Mom. But yeah, I have an army.
She has an
Yeah,
army on Kimberly.
I do. Yes, I got an army. But yeah.
Stick to your
Yeah.
cult, and we're gonna talk about ours, okay?
Yes. Yes. So I love a good cult story. Do you know this cult?
I do not, and I told Jody that the last cult I don't, but right before we went to Colorado, or no, it was Alabama. I was supposed to be packing, and I jumped into the Son of Sam stuff, and that's a rabbit hole you don't want to get down. And oh God, 2 days I just laid in bed and just watched.
Sorry, I had to put my finger up because here came Carson. And I'm like, don't. Like, don't. But, all right, so we're talking about Gwen Shamblin, who is a very unique, different type of cult leader. Well, you'll see. This is kind of where eating disorders meets hyper religion and creates a cult.
You told me about this one. I don't know the details, but you told me about this one. She's been wanting to do
So I've
this
gave her.
since the beginning.
I have, like,
Mm-hmm.
before we ever actually recorded, because I find Gwen Shamblin fascinating. My psychology brain, every time I watch something about her, I have questions. So I can't wait. And it's took me a long time not to just be like, you know what? I don't have to have Ashley. I have the tools. I need to know these things. But I haven't. I have not impulsively asked the spiritual world
Don't do it.
any advice because I've been wanting to do this. So I'm super excited. So we are talking about Gwen Shamblin.
She looks
And
like an anorexic Teresa Caputo.
now I can't unsee it.
It's the hair. It's got to be the hair, but that's what I'm seeing in this picture that
Oh, don't
Ryan
worry.
found.
We'll talk about her hair.
Yeah.
Her hair is part of this segment. Don't
Oh
worry. We'll talk about it.
yeah.
I'm sure you,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. So I'm sure you're seeing the picture.
Oh God.
And it has to be like our papa's hair because a woman told him that hairdo looked good one time and he'd been doing the same hairstyle from like 1950. And I'm sure that someone was like, oh, Gwen, your hair looks great. And she just kept doing it. And it was like,
He was
I meant
cute.
that in Papa was cute. But all right. So Gwen Shamblin. There's not a lot about her childhood, but what we do know is she did grow up in a religious family, which is fine. So she was devoted to religion, and she's always had this love for God, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm not hating on it, Kay, at all. Now she went and got her degree at the University of Tennessee as in nutrition. She was a dietitian. She was very successful. Yes, she did get married. She married a man named David Shamblin. Okay. I think her maiden name may have been Laura, Lara,
Okay.
but she always kept her name Gwen Shamblin, which we'll get into. Okay. Now, Gwen was raised in the Church of Christ family. Now, I'm not familiar with what all their practices are. We know in Christianity there are different branches where some branches believe in female preachers, where some don't. Some old school Pentecostal holiness, they don't believe in wearing, jeans and you got to wear the skirts and not cut your hair. There's all kinds of different aspects of Christianity. So I'm not entirely sure what that particular practice consisted of. So if you guys know, you're free to comment. I'm curious. I love to learn about people's, religious preferences and whatnot. But yeah. Now she had two children who will also play a big role in what we're going to be talking about today. Elizabeth and Michael. Okay. Both of them are grown and she had 7 grandchildren total. Okay. Now, Gwen was very fixated as far as back as we know on her weight, on her image, okay? And she would guide people, obviously, as a dietitian and a nutritionist, on proper ways to lose weight, have a healthy weight, all those things, right? That's what she went to school for.
Sure.
So she decided and came up with what was known and extremely popular in the 90s as the Way Down diet. I'm very curious to know if anybody knows what that is, because there's a few people that I work with when they're all the time asking me, who are we doing? They listen to us, and when I tell them, they're like, I know that diet. I remember seeing it on TV because it hit bookshelves, it sold.
Wow.
Gwen made a huge profit off of this. Now, David, if I'm not mistaken, he had his degree in religion. He was a pastor. They had it going on.
Was the
And
Way Down diet, was that her diet? Did she create it?
she created
Okay.
that. She did. And it was successful. Now, what made the Way Down diet is her philosophy was, if you are hungry, right, and you keep going to the refrigerator, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you know you got a big chocolate cake in there. Instead of getting a piece of chocolate cake, what you need to do is pray and pray the hunger away. And it worked. No, it worked for people. People lost a lot of weight doing this,
Wow.
which is great. If you can put your faith into that and that makes you feel better and it's working and it's successful, I'm happy for you. There's nothing wrong with that.
If you think about it, it's really, honestly, it's self control. When you're praying, you're changing your mentality. So honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mental thing. You're training yourself
Well,
not to be hungry, basically.
right.
Yeah.
Her thing was you're not actually physically hungry. Your heart is hungry for God. That's what she made people believe. And it worked. It worked. She was selling out. She was invited to go be a motivational speaker.
Wow.
She
Okay.
was, went nationwide. She was profiting quite a bit off of this. So she would do these workshops, right? You would go, and it's kind of like the Weight Watchers thing. You would talk about how much weight you lost. She would end up having these conferences where people would come. They would bring their jeans, right? And they would hold up their jeans, and you would see a significant weight loss.
Jeez Louise. I mean,
And
starvation.
having that visual, right? It it helps sell. And that's great.
Yeah.
People were buying it. She was being successful. And she said she really wanted to help. And she had this love for God. So she was also spreading God's word and all the things. The issue with this is these people started not just praising God, but they were praising Gwen Shamblin.
Mm.
Yes. Which I think, in a sense, fed her ego.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yes. Now, she told a Washington Post in 1997 that dieting makes people totally obsessive about food. So this whole purpose was you could eat what you wanted. You didn't have to exercise. You didn't have to really portion anything.
No.
There was no specific things you had to follow. It wasn't about calorie count. It wasn't about any of those things. You didn't have to take a supplement. It's kind of like what you said, self-control. But people took that and correlated like it was God's power in a way.
So did they eat though, or did they do this every time they wanted to eat? Like, where was the
Oh, we'll
line?
talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, because lines got crossed. Like, bad.
Mm.
Well, she also took this as a means that you didn't have to just apply this with dieting. Let's say maybe you had a gambling problem, or maybe you
Mm.
were addicted to pornography, or, smoking, drinking, all those things. You could take this and it would work. And again, it did. People were making changes, and it went really well in her favor, and she was making a hell of a profit doing it. So much that she ended up having employees for the Way Down workshops.
Wow.
She would have people, so other churches started adopting the Way Down workshop. she was making money off of that, right? It's literally like a business, that a franchise. She had that going. But then she decided she didn't necessarily like that, and she disagreed with the Holy Trinity. So she decided she was going to start her own church. And this is when everything takes a very huge twisted turn, okay? She ended up meeting with her employees right for the Way Down workshop and advised them that she has founded her own church. That she disagreed with the Holy Trinity, which I think caused some ruckus in her and David's marriage, because David was like, I took a course in religion. I know what the Holy Trinity is, and the Holy Trinity is very much real.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, no. She disagreed with it.
Which
It was
honestly would
almost
play
more like,
against her religion. I mean,
well,
so at that
I
point, you're
think that
steering
she
away from
felt
God.
like in her mind, it was you don't have to have all these different people in the Holy Trinity to have that communication with God. Just, it's God. And God was speaking through her.
Okay.
Just like a typical cult leader. She was a prophet. Gwen was a prophet. Who are you to question God's word? Oh, she took that and she ran with it. That's why I want to emphasize, when she would do these like motivational speaking, and she would have this huge crowd there, they would praise Gwen, and I think that really got to her.
Ugh.
Yeah, they really idolized her. So she found the Remnant Fellowship Church. Then this is where she's going to continue to preach her philosophy and what she believes in, which, don't worry, we're going to go in what Gwen's beliefs were.
Yay! So
Yes, don't worry.
This is her church. She bought a building.
This is her church.
Okay.
And it's I want to emphasize, it's still in practice right now.
Shut the fuck
It's in
up.
Tennessee. It's in Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee, which I don't know right off how far away is from me, but they totally have that southern twang. And the church itself is beautiful, Ashley. It's a gorgeous church. But it's not like the church that I grew up going to. Mm-hmm. It's not like the churches that I have been taught about. Okay. But her employees, she met with them. She had select other leaders. Okay. Just like a cult. And just like a cult. And when she met with them, her meeting would be like, all right, Ashley, I know you've been working for me and I really greatly appreciate that, but you need to leave your church and become a member in my church. And if you disagreed with it, you were terminated.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Oh, yes. So it was like she forced people to join. And there were people that was like, I've been going to the same church since I was a small child, and I don't intend to leave this church. And they ended up pursuing a lawsuit on her. I don't know if they just settled to kind of keep everything hush-hush, because you'll learn she really cares about image, as I'm sure you're picking up on. She really cares about how things look. And it's all about being perfect and presenting as perfect as you possibly can. So I don't know what the outcome of those lawsuits were, but I'm pretty certain that they would have got her for wrongful termination, because that's discrimination.
Oh,
you can't
absolutely.
just terminate, because somebody's religion, you don't agree or whatever. But yeah, okay. So she starts this church. Okay. Her and David, obviously, I'm sure that this caused quite a little ruckus. Year by year, as we go on, which we're about to dive in, the hair continuously kind of gets bigger and bigger, and she had this outlook that the bigger the hair, the closer to God. That's a direct quote from Gwen Shamblin, okay?
I think a lot of people think that. Not a lot, but there are people.
I like big hair. I'm sure you see me. Sometimes I tease it, and I like to make it big. But I don't make it Gwen Shamblin big. Hers is like a really ratty bee's nest. It looks, tangled. I just want to take a comb through it really bad. Like,
it looks nice in those pictures that Ryan found on our filter, but
you need to watch. By the way, after you listen to this, I highly encourage you to watch The Way Down Diet. It's about this case
Okay.
on HBO, and you'll see the clips throughout the years of how the hair evolves, as well as Gwen Shamblin's fucking bonker ideas evolve, okay? But yeah, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, it's not perfect like in this picture. Like, there's some that where the sections are all out and it's like, comb your hair. Like,
No.
that's what my mom would have said. My mom would have been like, absolutely not. Go back upstairs and fix that right now.
Brush your hair.
Like, brush her hair. But yeah, so she has started this church. She then took the Way Down workshop out of all the other churches. Kicker to this is, if you're a member of the church, you are also a member of the Way Down diet. You bought the books, you participated in the workshops, you
What?
did all the things. Yes.
So she
Yeah,
forced
you
people into
did.
this diet. That's terrible. Well,
Yes.
you got to think, cutting out all the other churches supplying her diet, it made, if people liked it and they couldn't get it elsewhere, they were coming to her.
They were going to, and people did. That's the scary part. People relocated all over the nation to join the remnant,
Nuts.
which we're going to talk about a lot. Again, I encourage you, listen, I know I pulled up their website today. If they ever come across my podcast, don't worry, we'll make their page, and I'm grateful for it. Fuck you, remnant. Like, they're a cult, 100%. They disagree with any, just like a normal cult would, of any negative, publicity on them.
Of course.
But yes, yeah, they do. And I know right now it doesn't sound bad, but don't worry. It's about to get really ugly. Like, really,
real.
really quickly. So, when people would join, now her son has spoke out since HBO series came out. He has left the remnant. He has nothing to do with them.
Oh, she
But
made her
he
kids
will
do it
tell.
too. Well, that would make sense.
Oh yeah. She's very twisted. But so Michael, these are things straight from Michael. This isn't talked about in the series, but this is interviews with him since he's came forward. If this tells you how much he hated it, he doesn't even refer to Gwen as his mother. He calls her Gwen.
Wow.
Yes. He doesn't call her mom. He doesn't call her mother. But he said the moment you join the church, they develop a file on you. They know everything. Because in Gwen's belief, you are not to seek guidance from the outside world. You are only supposed to get it within the remnant. Because we are evil. We are the devil. We are the enemy. Okay, so she develops this file on you. And this is why she videoed everything. She videoed her sermons. She would video people's testimonies and all that. And she did that to use it against you. Not only for ads, to get people to come join, but it was to be used against you. She knew everything about you. She would know your marital issues. She knew about your finances. If you joined the church, you had to live in their community. You didn't call outside plumbers to come to your house. You would use the remnant society's services. You didn't go to therapists. Gwen was your therapist.
Well, most churches do function, but it's optional. You could go
right.
to your church
No,
for
not
therapy.
for her.
And your churches do. I mean, they'll know your business only if you do choose to take therapy through them. And of course, everybody's financial stuff comes out in therapy. Everybody's relationship stuff come out in therapy. But like I said, it's optional.
Now, don't worry. We're going to dive into how fucking twisted this really gets, okay? So, Michael said, this is a direct quote from him in his interview, every single member that joins gets a file started on them. And they immediately start collecting video footage. They start collecting photos. You have no privacy.
Ew.
The remnant knows everything. Yeah. They purposely get people who join the church to get on stage and share testimony. Why? The person joining thinks, oh, this is a great opportunity. I get to get on stage and praise God and share my testimony, and my life has changed. They only do that because it's ammunition later if you try to leave.
How so?
We're going to dive
Oh, you're telling your
in.
story,
Yeah.
so you're talking about all the negative stuff in your life.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. And they're getting it all on video.
oh my God.
So this is just parts of the files that they develop on you. So they make what they call a guidance stats sheet. This is what tracked marital situations of certain members, how they were doing on their weight. They kept track of that. And I'll elaborate on the weight thing here in a minute. Personal issues that they were dealing with, including lust. So if you had had sex outside of marriage or something, it was in your file. If you had sex before you were married, that was in your file. Because, they believed that you didn't do those things. Okay. Instructions that certain members needed to have their weight reported once a month.
Wow.
Yeah. Dates and times that members signed into Remnant webcasts. So they kept track to make sure you were actually participating. Like they monitored you like hardcore.
I'm shocked
Um,
that they had that technology back then. I mean, it was the 90s. So, but I mean,
well, we're getting in early 2000s now. I
oh,
should have
okay.
corrected because the way down diet, she kind of kept that going out of her garage, I guess you could say, for years. And then she evolved in the early 2000s to
Okay.
the remnant. Okay. Um, a text noting that a member would need leadership permission to have a Facebook account, while another suggested the need to check on a woman's Instagram. Notice just the woman. Mm-hmm.
And it's ran by a woman.
It is ran by a woman, absolutely. Gwen Shamblin notifying her team that a female had been monitored by fellow members, and Gwen was saying yes to her request to return to the church. So if you had to go through Gwen if you left.
Jesus Christ.
You had to
Okay.
meet with Gwen.
It's baffling to me that people would be okay with. I've got to have your permission to have social media. I've got to have your permission to sneeze. I got like that's no.
Well, you have to think of it like this. I think one of people's most vulnerable things, regardless of how confident you are, is your own image in your skin.
Right.
And she took that and she ran with it. And so she's getting people that are vulnerable, right? Maybe they struggle with self-image. Maybe there's somebody that didn't need to lose weight, but they felt like they did. That's a very common thing, right? We see that all the time.
Yeah.
And she preyed upon that.
That's
And she
sick.
took that little piece and then manifested it into more and more and more and more. And then we're
And then
in this
fucked them up
situation.
worse by
Yeah,
making
and then
them hurt.
fucking them up. You're making them. So she's taking their vulnerability and how they feel about their self-image, and she's manifesting it into more and more and more to the point that you're just brainwashed and you believe that all of this that she's saying is factual because she said she's a prophet. God's word is coming through her. Who are you to question God?
I just. Ugh.
Yeah. Documentation that a remnant wife was not completely under the authority and questions her husband, that she had confessed to being anti-authority and always having a better idea. So men basically were in control of women. Okay.
And she was cool with it. That's what she wanted.
There was a note in somebody's chart, okay, in their chart, that another remnant wife had been counseled to stop controlling and driving her husband insane. Yeah. That she needed, are you ready? She just needed to put the jeans on that he wants her to wear. Who is she to put on what she wants to wear? She needs to do what the husband wants to. And because he's eyeballing other women, that's her fault.
I'm a feisty
Yes.
woman. I couldn't. Which there are women out there that have that personality where they're just like, I want to take care of you, and there's nothing wrong with it if that's your personality. But I'm not gonna be told what to do. Sorry, Ryan.
Well, so at any given moment that you questioned, right, anything that she said, or maybe you're being counseled by one of the fellow leaders in the remnant, it was documented in your file that you were questioning things.
Oh,
And when
Christ.
you start questioning things, you're in their radar. They literally fucking stalked people. I'm not kidding, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. Like, you were under the radar.
Was it,
Um,
so it was, they made it to where it was like almost impossible to leave.
but that's what cults do.
Yeah, okay.
Look at Warren Jeffs.
Yeah.
Look what he did. Heaven's Gate, Jim Jones, all these. She is no different than they are. Except she had an eating disorder. Like, yeah. And that's the thing. So you could go in, and if you wasn't losing weight fast enough, you're a sinner, and your relationship isn't good with God. And then she would get you to fast. And previous ex-members that have left the remnant said there were some people that fasted as long as 40 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
My mindset was she started out killing cravings by praying. It didn't mean you sinned, from what I'm interpreting to her at the beginning. And now if you gained weight, you're a sinner.
Right.
So I just don't believe God would want you anorexically sick and not take care of the body he gave you if you're religious.
She used some Bible verse, and I don't know it right off, forgive me. I bet my mom could quote this right off, but something to the degree that your body is your temple, right? And that you need to respect God's temple.
Absolutely. But
I don't think that God was like, don't eat for 40 days. If you're not 90 pounds soaking wet, you can't come to heaven. But that's what she preached off of. Mm-hmm. And if people wasn't losing the weight or where she wanted them to be, not what they were comfortable with, where she wanted them to be, you could get kicked out of the church. You basically would get shunned. Cool. Which sucked for them. Well, yeah, I agree. Great. Fucking kick me out. But the thing is, your whole life has been invested into this community. You live in this community. You know no one in the outside world because she took that from you. And now you're left alone. She mind fucked people hard. So. God damn. Yeah, she's terrible. She's such a, I hate this word, forgive me, Mom, but she's a cunt. Like,
well, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. These people were so dependent. That's their community. You get shunned. They were like, oh my God, I've lost everything. And then depression sets in. And, like, you're absolutely right. It's freaking terrible. It's hard to come back
it's funny you brought in depression. Because there was one member who, this pushed people to suicidal ideation, to depression, eating disorders, because obviously in their mind, oh my God, God's going to, send me to hell because I gained 5 pounds over the month, and Gwen's going to shun me. I ate a cheeseburger, so they were being bulimic. This is what people were pushed to. She even said, if you're, obviously, I'm sure we've all been to the church, kids are going to be kids. Toddlers are going to be toddlers. Cora's going through this phase right now. We literally went out to eat yesterday, and she started screaming like a fucking pterodactyl at the table, and I'm like, is that necessary? But that's what kids do. Mm-hmm. If I was to go to the remnant and Cora did that, I'm a sinner. I don't know how to control my children.
Oh.
How dare them interrupt Gwen's service? Your kids, they didn't do children's church. Your kids sat there and they listened to her sermon and they didn't make a peep.
It's so bizarre, especially if you were a Christian person, because a prophet does not make themselves equal to God.
Exactly. But this one particular member, what I was saying before was, she was struggling with depression. She ended up getting put on psychiatric medication, which pissed the remnant off. How dare you go to the outside world and seek guidance? And they told her she didn't need that medicine. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're
From
wonderful.
somebody that's I've been on depression medicine, I currently and have been on anxiety medication. Sometimes you need the help.
They were confronted about this because this woman ended up getting put in a psychiatric facility because she went off her medicine, obviously. Like, I think that
Wow.
this pushed her to a nervous breakdown. I don't doubt that for a second. And one of the
Ugh.
leaders, it wasn't Gwen, but one of the leaders, he said, this is where the files get used against you. So if you read her testimony, she went back on her drugs, so it wasn't from a lack of drugs that sent her back into a psychiatric hospital. So they reverted
Yeah.
everything that they had told her, yeah, back on her. That's her problem. That's not us. We didn't do that to her. She did it to herself. Yeah.
Oh, that's disgusting.
So Michael has, since he's broken out of this cult and came forward, he said they literally, when he says they knew everything about you, he wasn't kidding. They would have known that you had diabetes, Ashley. They would have known your blood type. They would have known every sexual encounter you have ever had. Like, they would know everything on you. And they used that against you when you tried to leave. Women that decided that they were going to leave their husbands, Gwen, obviously, she was a millionaire. She had made tons of money off of this, and she still is. Still is profiting off of you. She would make sure to get the husband the best attorney she possibly can, and she would make you stay with the fear that she would get full custody for the husband of your children.
Wow. I mean, what would she
Oh,
do if she
she's
came across? I mean, I'll be honest. I'm an open book. I really don't. I don't care. Try to use my story against me. I'll go tell everybody my story. I
well,
mean,
yeah,
what do
I
you do
know,
with
but
people like that?
it's just, I guess, to make
Your blackmail's nothing.
them
It's
feel
useless.
insecure, and yeah, well, to us
She
it's
could
nothing,
manipulate it to
but
be
to them,
nasty, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Ugh.
she preached in her church that other religions, regardless if it's non-denominational, Catholic, Mormon, Pentecostal, Baptist, I'm just throwing out some because there's a ton of them. They're all counterfeit religions. None of those are real churches. Her church is the real church. That's God's church.
That's disgusting because
Hmm.
every religion, you should respect every religion. You just really should because everybody's read that book. It's how everything's interpreted in a different way. And that's
Yeah.
what different religions is different interpretations of the same book that you all worship. So respect just how they look at it. You don't have to
Hmm.
believe in it, just respect it. They're not
Oh
forcing
yeah.
it on. Well, this
She's.
lady was forcing it on people, so just kidding.
Hmm. Oh yes.
Just kidding.
So when you were in the remnant bubble, okay, you're like under this dome. The remnant is all that
That's
existed.
exactly what it is.
It is.
A dome.
You couldn't, she didn't want any outsiders unless you wanted to join. You were welcome to join. But if you disagreed, fuck off. Like, she didn't want that. But she portrayed that us on the outside, we're evil. We're the devil. And people believed that.
All right.
So let's talk about some of Gwen's counseling sessions because, just like I said before, she videoed everything. She would record your sessions, okay? And it's not uncommon practice for people to go and seek guidance from their pastor. There's nothing wrong
No.
with that. But it should be optional, not forced, okay? So, Joseph and Sonia Smith, on October the 8th, 2003, they called 911. Their son Joseph was found unresponsive. Okay, so they call 911. They come and respond. Joseph was deceased. Now, Sonia, the mother, claims that Joseph died. He just passed out from a fever during a family prayer session due to alleged eczema infection, a skin infection. The look on your face. That's what she told them.
I've dealt with eczema my whole
Now,
life. I've never heard of somebody dying from eczema. I could
well,
be
you
wrong.
wasn't praying hard enough.
I know. I said I could be wrong.
You didn't pray hard enough to get the fever.
I was
Anyway,
a baby. I didn't know what to do.
you wasn't praying hard enough. Well, so was he. He wasn't very old. Yeah. Anyways, I think he wasn't but 8 or 9 when this happened. He was little. I'll have to
I
double
was like
check.
a
Maybe
baby,
11, the oldest.
And now I deal with it
You
more
weren't
as
praying
an
hard
adult.
enough. Gwen Shamblin said you should have been praying outside the womb the moment you entered the world. Now, given the bruises that was on his body, the police questioned the parents what they were saying, right? Because it's not adding up. He may have eczema, okay? That's fine. Get the boys some good prescription lotion and he'll be just fine. But, well, we forget that Gwen said no, they couldn't seek guidance anywhere. But anywho, autopsy showed he had extensive bruising all over his body and head, concluding that the cause of death was either blunt force trauma or asphyxiation.
Oh my God.
Which is completely different than a skin infection.
Oh, very.
I just want to... There's a huge difference there. In all my years of medical practice, I gotta say, I've never seen an eczema infection. I've never seen that before. But
they look very similar. I mean...
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it an infection. But in all my years, I've seen some dry fucking skin. Okay? Let me tell you. For some reason, when people are in full-blown psychosis, they don't like to bathe. That's a very common thing. I think that they think that, there's acid. I've heard all kinds of different, delusions and things. And mind you, I know it sounds funny. They really do believe that. In their mind, that's true.
Oh, absolutely.
But I've seen it where... they're not eating and drinking or showering, so the skin gets so dry, and it's just flaky all over. You know what I mean?
No.
But they didn't have an infection.
No,
so
the parents had an infection of the brain.
Yeah. So the couple ended up being arrested in December of 2003. They're suspects of murder, obviously. And during this homicide investigation... the detectives discovered that the Smiths had been members of Gwen Shamblin's Remnant Fellowship Church.
Okay.
They'd been a member since the year 2000. We're in 2003 then.
Okay.
Now, while interviewing witnesses and several former church members came forward, and they alleged that the church promoted corporal punishment on children. Though no connection between the Remnant Fellowship's teachings and what they did to their son have ever been, correlated. They did investigate the Remnant Fellowship Church. They were in their business, and Gwen was not happy about that. She did not like the fact that the police were in their business, but she didn't mind to say that her members were innocent, and she didn't mind to fork out hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for their legal fees, and insisted that their story was correct, that he died from a skin infection.
So was it the church, or was the church taught the parents that corporal punishment to children, and the parents?
Well, Laura Boone testified, and she was a babysitter. And I think you all can correct me if you know this. I could be wrong. But if you watch the documentary that HBO has, this girl does talk about, she got a job with the Remnant. They did hire some people outside, like babysitters. Teenage girls would be looking for, babysitting jobs. They were paying really big money for people to watch kids during, fellowship events and things like that. So she took a job with them for a day to help watch some of these kids. This couple, the Smiths, walk in, and the boy was crying. He didn't want to be left. I've partially wondered if Joseph might not have been on the spectrum. I don't know. Just with some of the things that I've read about him, I really think that he may have been on the spectrum.
Oh.
And of course, they didn't seek guidance on the outside, right? So how would they know?
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that's factual, so please don't take that and run with it. I'm just giving what my opinion is. I think he may have been on the spectrum. But she said he was crying. He didn't want to be left. The dad hit him as hard as he possibly could and told the babysitter, Miss Laura Boone, that's just hit him. It'll be fine. Just hit him if he starts acting out or whatever. And that really bothered her a lot, as it should have. She never went back to babysit at the Remnant ever again, but that bothered her. And when she saw this little boy's face on the TV, that this murder had happened, she said it really fucked her up.
Oh, I bet it did. Because, I mean, you gotta think she's probably like, I could have done something.
She was like a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I babysat when I was, a teenager. I'm sure you did too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think even then I would have known how to respond to that. I probably would have told mom, but I don't know that I would have known how to respond to that.
I don't like confrontation. I'm that type of person, so I don't know. I don't know. And like you said, you never know how you're going to react in a situation until you're in it. You've always said that.
Well, that's true. Well, absolutely, we don't know how we're going to respond until we're in that situation. But I'm sure that made her feel really awkward.
I'm shocked they allowed outsiders in like that.
That it wasn't adults. They did an ad that we're hiring teenagers, to babysit.
Kids.
And right.
Sickening.
Yeah.
How did her
community... And it wasn't a common thing.
Did they work? How did they...
Everything was in the Remnant.
Oh my God. Like...
I mean, your whole life was in the Remnant.
So you got a job through them.
I'm assuming that's what they did. And that's what she wanted. She wanted her own, literally like her own little world. Your own plumbers, your own attorneys, your own doctors, your own everything.
Did they have their own town? Like, where are they? I don't...
It was kind of like what do you call them? Like homeowners association kind of thing. Like this little community within Brentwood. Again, it's still in practice, mind you. You'll have to look it up. It's the church is beautiful. I'm not saying it's not. Pretty impressed. Great job, Gwen Shamblin, but holy shit. But all right, Michael Booth, who is the older brother of this little boy that was murdered, he gave his testimony. And he claimed that on October the 8th of 2003, Joseph repeatedly behaved defiantly, and despite being reprimanded each time, he even tried hurting the 2-year-old brother, James. That's why I think he was on the spectrum. And I think that this was really overstimulating to him. Again, I could be wrong. And he's reacting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They don't know how to regulate their emotions. The boy's father then hit the 8-year-old, so he was 8. I thought I was right. He was 8 years old. Several times with a glue stick, resulting in the later complaining of severe stomach pains and even passing brown urine at one point. Michael alleged that later when Joseph took a bath, Sonia took over and beat up Joseph with the glue stick, drawing blood through the boy's clothes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That night, the family was attending an online prayer session with the Remnant, heaven forbid, when Joseph started to curse and scream loudly. Again, this is why I think he was on the spectrum. I really do. If this is factual, I'm like, kids don't just do that.
No, they
okay?
have meltdowns. They have...
Right.
Yeah.
Sonia and Joseph told Michael to lock Joseph in a wooden box, beating him on the head as he did so. Michael shut the box with an extension cord as Joseph continued to kick and scream inside. However, the sound then stopped, which they panicked, went and checked, and he was breathing like very, very faintly. He was actively dying in that
Oh
moment.
my
And that's when they
gosh.
called 911. So,
What a sweet baby. That's so sweet.
yeah. Michael testified that his parents frequently subjected his brother to corporal punishment by beating him with glue sticks, belts, heated coat hangers. Can you imagine?
No. No, I like this is
Binding
disgusting.
binding his hands with rope, locking him in confined spaces like closets for long periods of time. They often would lock him in his room with absolutely nothing but a Bible. And they would leave him in there like that all weekend long
Yep,
with
because
nothing but a Bible.
God would
Yes.
support that.
Yes. So, obviously, all of this testimony was used, right? And they ended up deciding they're going to meet with Gwen Shamblin because they were very active in the Remnant Fellowship. And it's very evident that that was distracting them from actually properly parenting their child. So you all can pull up this disposition that they did where they questioned Gwen, and you can visually see how uncomfortable she is. She don't like people in the remnant's business, as we know. She don't like negative media attention because everything has to be perfect. She has to be perfect. The church has to be perfect. Your children have to be perfect. So she doesn't like that. And the way she answers, like if you watch her in her interviews where she's like, oh, I'm the prophet of God. You're fat. Lose weight. You're going to hell. She's not cheerful like that. She's very assertive and no. Yes. And she even says something to the degree they're like, so is this your voice on this audio tape? And she's like, well, it sounds like, and they're like, no, we're asking you a yes or no question. Is this your voice on this audio tape? Yes, but I would question the quality and if it has been tampered with.
It's like that Shonda Vander arc. Is that what? Well, if that's what it says.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's such
Ugh.
a, I hate, yeah, Gwen Shamblin's such a, yeah. Now, part of the recordings from Gwen Shamblin said, if they're not scared of spanking, you haven't spanked them yet. If you have really spanked them, I'm sorry, if you have not really spanked them, like if they're not afraid of it, you don't love them. You love yourself. Yes. This is where the opposing attorney, this is when he started questioning her, the audio tapes, and he said, was that yourself that you just heard on this recording or not? And she said those were sound bits. And he's like, I understand that. But was that your voice or not?
Yeah.
Was that your voice or not? And she's like, yes. He said, then the tape, and they had an audio recording with the Smiths, okay, because she recorded everything. And they said on this recording, we got everything out of there and locked him in there from Friday until Monday and only left him in the room with his Bible, just like you said. And she acknowledges this. She told them to do this. She responded, we are spoiling these kids. We are ruining their lives by even letting them think about themselves at all. So thank you, Sonia, for sharing that.
Oh my God.
Which
I'm not gonna lie.
During
Jaden's gotten popped in the mouth. He's gotten spanked.
I spank my kids.
Yeah, there's certain situations where I feel there's consequences to your actions type of thing. And I don't disagree with it. I got spanked growing up. Beating your kids, starving them, like those are extreme.
Well, I spank my kids. They know it. But I would never beat them with glue sticks. I would never beat them with belts. I would never heat up a wire coat hanger. That's all extreme.
Yeah.
So during this deposition, the attorney, questioned Gwen about her own words. I love it. And she got very angry.
I bet she did.
But I loved it. He was savage as fuck. I loved him. He said, do you think it's wrong for kids to think about themselves? I mean, that's what she
And
said.
then kids do.
And she said, of course not. That's what she said, of course not. And she acted disgusted. Like, why would you ask that? Even though he said, it's wrong for them to think about themselves. And she slumps back into her chair. Everybody loves themselves. Everybody feeds themselves. Everybody, when you're sleepy, sleep. When you're thirsty, eat. Whatever you need love, you need that. But the fact is, that would be the opposite of what I would teach.
Okay.
Yeah. So, 18 years after Joseph's death, mind you, the Remnant Fellowship continues to argue that he died as a result of a skin-related infection. But the Smiths, they did get life without
Stop.
parole, as they should, both of them. She took time out of her busy prophet schedule, okay, to go meet with them at the jail and told them, I'm going to help you. I'm going to pay your legal fees, but I'm going to need you to stop telling them that I told you to do these things.
Why? Why is that, Gwen?
You fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
stand on business. Like, that's...
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you believe, stand on it.
Yep. Now, we're going to talk about more counseling with Gwen.
Ugh.
There is a woman who used to be basically like best friends with Gwen. And she talks about how Gwen is the one that pressured her and this man to get married when they were dating.
Oh, the
Okay?
bestie knows
They
it all.
yes. Yeah, she knew it all. She married them. They weren't ready to get married. I think that they cared about each other. And their marriage
yeah.
probably would have worked out a lot better if they wouldn't have been pressured by Gwen. But again, Gwen had to have all this big, perfect, bullshit, all the things, right? So she convinces them to get married. What do you know? The husband ends up having an affair. She found it in his cell phone. And it bothered her, as it would any normal person. Yeah. Regardless if the roles were reversed and it was a husband finding out that the wife cheated. That's a very traumatic thing, okay? So she goes to Gwen and she's talking about it, and Gwen's like, I'm so sorry, I hate that this has happened. And she's venting, as any person would, and she's like, I just can't even stand to look at him right now. I don't think that I can even be in the same room with him. I can't live my life like this. And Gwen says, you can't get a divorce. And she goes, well, I don't want to get a divorce. That's not what I signed up for, but I can't. And she goes, no, you're not listening to me. You can't get a divorce because God forbids it.
Well.
So she forces her friend to stay with him. And I know people are like, well, she had the free will. Again, we can say we would know how we would react in those moments.
Absolutely.
We don't know until we're there. So, years down the road, we're going to fast forward now to 2018. Gwen suddenly divorces David. Remember David? Yes, she divorces David. That was her husband. Things got rocky.
Wow, what a hypocrite.
So the friend confronts Gwen, and she goes, what happened to God forbids divorces? And she says, well, there's certain situations where God understands things, yeah. And that's when her friend left. Her friend's like, fuck you. Like,
I'm curious as to what her reasoning for a divorce was.
Oh, well, here we go. So,
let's go.
In 2018, obviously, we already know Gwen was in love with Gwen. I think that she quit loving David a long time ago.
Oh,
okay?
Absolutely.
He disagreed with some of her stuff. That's not what she wanted. She wanted full-blown control. Right? Mm-hmm. That was the thing. She met Joe. Okay? Now, Joe Lara played Tarzan in Tarzan in Manhattan. His Hollywood career was not going very well. Yes. He was a handyman for the Remnant. Joe also had a history of getting with very wealthy women because he wanted to get back into the spotlight. He made one big movie and he thought his shit didn't stink. I never had even heard of Tarzan in Manhattan until I've learned about Gwen Shamblin. So
And to be truthfully
Sorry,
honest, they
Joe.
sound like two peas in a pod.
They were. They were. Because Joe, all right, so Gwen, I think she really did love Joe. He was attractive, and
I mean, he
I
played
think she fed off
Tarzan.
of that. And he played Tarzan, but Joe was in love with Joe. Gwen loved Joe, and Joe loved Joe. And there you go. And
Nice.
she had what he wanted, money. Right? So they ended up getting married very shortly after she divorced David. She just kind of threw David out and moved Joe in, and yeah.
So
So,
adultery was the divorce
well,
reason?
for her,
She just
well,
fell
I
out of
don't know
love.
what they.
That was the exception to God's
I
rule.
guess
Not
that
adultery
sometimes
that the Bible
people
speaks
grow
against.
apart, and God understands, and yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Joe had a daughter with another woman that he never married, mind you, but Gwen was okay with that. But Gwen and Joe absolutely tortured his daughter's mother. Joe made a false report saying that the mother of his daughter had sexually abused the little girl. They were fighting for
Ooh,
full blown custody because Gwen wanted another member in the church. And I know people's like, well, how would that work?
grimy.
She utilized the daughter for the mother to be submissive and basically bow down to her. You can have her if you join the church. They went to the degree of having members follow this woman around and take pictures of her and video her and
That's
stalk and write down
insane.
every move that she made.
Insane.
This custody battle went on for years.
Oh my god.
Yeah, could you imagine fighting for Jay like that?
No.
And looking outside and seeing people videotape every move you make?
It's exhausting even thinking about. And then after the fact that's done, your kid's already 18. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Not that
So we're
that's
going
what
to fast
happens.
forward. On March 29th, 2021, Gwen Shamblin and Joe, as well as 6 other remnant leaders, were flying to Florida. Gwen had bought an airplane for Joe, and he was
Oh
operating
my
it. He had his
god.
pilot lessons. Yeah, that's the type of money they had. Um, However, the plane crashed in a lake in Tennessee, and everyone on that plane died.
Sounds to me
Mm-hmm.
like God was not happy with you, ma'am.
I have my own suspicions, which is what I
Ooh.
want to ask. Yeah. So this was years later from the whole child abuse thing. I don't know that police ever had really gave up on. I don't think that they had enough submissive evidence to be like, okay, you are guilty. You talked them into doing this, even though we have that audio tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that they had enough like documentation, but I don't know that they ever just closed that. And I've always had this like feeling that this was like a suicide thing. I really
Interesting.
do.
Interesting.
That's me. That's me. I could be completely wrong about it.
So
Because
her and Tarzan are no longer
and
living.
6 other leaders. Now, that means she left Michael and Elizabeth behind. Right?
Is that who's
And
running?
now
Oh,
Elizabeth runs the church. Michael left,
wow.
but Elizabeth runs it. Now, Gwen also would tell people if unfortunate events happened to you, maybe you had a miscarriage, maybe your dad died, maybe, I mean, something bad, maybe you got diagnosed with cancer or something. That happened because you're a sinner. Bad things don't happen to people that are not sinners.
Well, a plane crash sounds pretty bad.
So you aren't allowed to grieve. You better not be crying
That's
because
just
that's God's plan. And that's what Elizabeth said the
you
day that
did
she was
it.
told that. Well, that's what Elizabeth
That's
said the day
disgusting.
that the plane crashed. You would think you'd be sobbing. She said it's all part of God's plan.
Oh,
And to this day, this church is still in practice. If I'm not mistaken, they still look at Gwen as their leader, even though she's dead. Okay. Elizabeth runs it. And anybody that makes any type of false publicity to them, you make it on their website. And they've talked about the HBO series, how false that is, and they're not like that. They're not a cult. Those are wrong words, and it's wild. So
okay.
I'm curious. Do you all think it's a cult? Because I'm pretty certain they checked all the boxes.
I'm pretty sure they check more than all the boxes. Like they created their own boxes. Like, sorry, not
Oh
sorry.
yeah, they did.
Like
That's
you
why
had,
I'm like,
you controlled everybody, everything they did, every move they made, every thought they had. How is that not?
well, yeah. That's why I'm like, but
You were
she's
their
different.
lifeline. You were their like. Honestly,
She treated she. It's like I don't know. They're to me they're different than what your other cult stories are, like Heaven's Gate and stuff.
yeah.
Like I just think that I don't know.
Is
I could just, but
Elizabeth? Was
yeah,
she still running it the same?
yes.
Ugh.
Oh, absolutely. As far as I know, I don't know. I can't say I've attended a sermon, but
Well, I hope not. I wouldn't.
nah, I don't have any desire. I would like to drive by the church, though. I mean, it's a beautiful church.
I have my own
You'll have to
mind. I
look it
do
up.
what I want. I'm pretty
Yeah,
good.
no, I'm not. I'm not joining their cult. No, I wouldn't be a good cult member because I ask too many questions.
I do too. I do
They'd
too.
kick me out. They'd be like, you asked too many questions."
Fun fact,
Yeah.
I
So
worked
do you,
for a company that was a scam and I didn't know it. They just mass hired anybody and everybody. It was money. And I questioned it and that night I got fired because I was questioning everything they were doing.
you were in a cult?
I was not. I didn't make it in. I didn't pass the initiation.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't pass the initiation. I'd ask too many questions.
Oh, we all were
So
there.
do
Heidi,
you,
Ryan, Sage. Yeah, Heidi was there for the longest. Now they're all on.
what company was this?
It was United Property Sales. They moved here from Florida like overnight, and I found them on Craigslist like back when Jaden was like
Well,
a
no
bit.
wonder that was your mistake.
And they changed their name frequently. You weren't allowed to call people in Ohio. Well, I'm in Ohio. You weren't allowed to call people in Ohio, and it was people who had vacant properties, and we pretended we gave them. We did some weird math formulation to decide how much we were going to say we would offer, how much we could get their property sold for. We have dinners with investors in Las Vegas. We'll put their property in our slideshows and all this stuff. All it takes is a down payment of da da da, and it was never the same ever. And the 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 lady's husband was insanely good. It's insanely good. And I started questioning. I was like, well, Chelsea worked there with me, and I was like, Chelsea and I ride together. We clock in at the exact same time. We clock out at the exact same time. Why is her check a different amount than mine? And I was like, why can't we call it Ohio? I called a number in Ohio. He freaked out and yelled at me to hang up. And I was like, this is weird. I'm just getting the weirdest vibes. And Ryan worked there, and he said that I didn't get a chance to meet this guy, but he never wore. If he got a little speck of something on his shirt, he'd take it off and throw it in the trash and pull another one out. He never wore the same clothes twice. Heidi's went out to clubs with all of them, and they literally throw money like it's nothing. Well, now all of a sudden, I had posted something on the internet. Sorry to get off topic, but I posted something
You're
on the
good.
internet because they target older people, and that I'm such a good person. I can't do that shit. And so they had people on there. Has anybody's parents ever gotten calls from this United Property Sales or this company ran by this person? And so I got on there. I was like, listen, I used to work for them. They did this, and like they told my sister who worked there still at the time that if I didn't take it down, they were going to sue me for slander. I got nervous. I took it down. So 2 years passed, I think. 2 years passed. Yeah. And my mom called me and she said that Mike DeWine, which at the time was our attorney general, and now he's our governor, and he called my mom personally. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, he's looking for you. I was like, okay. And so I ended up calling him back, and he's been working on an investigation for 2 years against these people, and now they all serve jail time. They like the ringleaders were.
Why have you never told me
I
this?
don't know. I don't know, and it's like insane. And the ringleaders, they only got 9 years in on house arrest because they had, or it was longer, but they got house arrest instead of prison time because they fought that they had an autistic daughter who needed them to be out of jail. So they got house arrest. The other people got like 3 or 4 years in prison.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it was insane.
He was in a cult.
I was.
I'm like,
anyway,
not quite the same cult, but
questions.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, questions. It's the girls' time. Can you hear it?
Yes.
All right. Hey, girls. What? Hey, can we ask you questions about Gwen Shamblin? Yep.
Let's go.
All right. So, all right, I just gotta ask.
Roll them off.
Was the plane crash a suicide?
I keep hearing yes or yep.
It sounded like yes.
3
Was
times.
it a suicide? Yes.
Yeah. I
It was.
kept
Did you
hearing
hear it? It went. I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Did she do? All right. So was it because she thought that they were going to get in trouble? I think I heard yes.
I thought it came through as a male voice that said yes, or like a deeper.
And then I heard maybe. So did they coach the Smiths into the abuse? Yeah, that was really clear. Yeah. That was really clear. Yeah. Yes.
Did he die from their abuse?
Yeah. Did he die from did he suffocate? That's what I need to say. Did he suffocate, or did he die from blunt force? Did you hear he died? Did he die from the blunt force trauma? What was that? They're like, what was that? Did you hear it? What was that?
You were kind of jittery asking too, so.
Yeah. Did they die? I'm sorry. Did Joseph die because of suffocation? He couldn't breathe. Did you hear that?
No, I thought somebody said died too.
It sounded like to me he couldn't breathe. Or did he die because of blunt force trauma to the head? No. So he couldn't breathe.
Was it a skin infection?
Yeah, was it a skin infection? No. No.
It wasn't a skin infection, so he couldn't breathe. When you said skin infection, it sounded like it said breathe.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, did Gwen really believe she was a prophet? No, she never believed that.
Yeah. Did she feel that she was godly? Like, or was this
Did she think that she was a godly person?
What?
Gwen, did you hear that, Gwen?
Oh, no, I swear I heard what.
Or did she think that she was right with God? Yes, she really thought that.
Did she really believe in her own religion? Like,
Did she really believe her own word? Sure.
oh,
Would you say that Gwen had an eating disorder? Maybe. Yeah.
it's weird because I keep hearing somebody try to come through and say Beth or something that sounds like Beth. I've heard it multiple times.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um. Did she really love Tarzan?
Yeah, did she really love Joe? I swear I heard she did. So did Joe love Gwen? I heard yes. So maybe he did. I think he loved Gwen's money, but
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, he did. I think I'm good. I don't.
thank you, ladies.
Thanks, girls. Oh, I
Oh,
love
they said of
cults.
course.
Of course.
I know. I love a good cult
I do
story.
too. I am
I
gonna
hope you
watch it.
liked this one.
I did. I
Yes,
did.
you
I
got to
did.
watch the Way Down Diet.
It's
I
on
encourage you all to watch it too.
Max.
Now, with the part, so it's like got 4 episodes, I believe. So when it gets to the part about the child abuse, and as you know, it takes a lot for me to like. I can watch this stuff all day long. It doesn't bother me. I
Yeah.
read case files. I have read horrific case files. I've sat in room with terrible criminals. That bothered
Oh,
me.
it bothers kids stuff bothers me all the time, and I'll be truthfully honest,
But I've watched
autistic
other kids'
people
stuff.
bothers me too.
Again, I just want to say there's no written clinical proof that Joseph was autistic. I just, with what I read, and maybe you'll pick up on that too. I'm curious. You got to watch it now because I'm curious when you watch it if you feel the way I feel and feel like he was on the spectrum.
Okay.
I'm not saying that he was extremely low functioning or ID. I just think that I think he was somewhere on the spectrum.
I got some downtime this weekend. I'll definitely watch it. I'm taking mom out on a date Saturday night, but other than that,
Aw, I
yeah,
love
taking her
it.
to dinner and to see Wicked. So
Oh God, I'm so jealous
I
and
know.
excited.
I cannot wait to watch it with her. We saw it in Cincinnati, the Broadway show. So I'm
My
super excited.
heart's fluttering.
We'll tell you how it is. I'm super excited, but it's only the first part. I didn't realize it was like 2 parts.
What?
Yeah,
Who does that?
I think it's smart because you have to give this show justice. You can't cut any of it out because movies ruin everything by
This
compacting.
is horse shit. That's just like
So,
when they did fucking Harry Potter in 2 sections. Damn you.
oh well, they still did well. So yeah, but I'll watch
I
it this
can't
weekend for
watch it
sure.
until both of them. Yes, you got to. You got
Okay.
to. All right. All right, Ash, what do they need to do?
You need to like, follow, and subscribe. We're on most social media platforms. Find us on YouTube and find us on Spotify.
All right.
All right.
Bye, doll babies.
Bye.